It was supposed to be an ordinary Thursday evening. But from the moment Daniel Cole, an exhausted single, father with worry lines etched into his quiet smile, walked into the small countryside cafe, something in the air felt different, like destiny was whispering just beyond the warm glow of the hanging lanterns. And the moment he saw a young woman stumble through the door completely, drenched in mud, hair tangled, clothes ruined, and cheeks blazing with embarrassment, his heartbeat kicked in with a strange tug of emotion he hadn't felt in years. And right there, within those first few seconds, he sensed that whatever story had brought her to this place was not one of shame, but one of courage. The poor girl, Emily Hart, stood frozen, breath trembling, explaining in a breaking voice that she had slipped in a ditch while trying to rescue a lost puppy from the roadside. And even before she finished speaking, Daniel's eyes softened with an emotion that reached straight into the first 25-30 seconds of the moment, genuine admiration, the kind that makes a person feel seen for the first time in a long time. And instead of reacting with shock or judgment like she feared, he simply removed his clean jacket and wrapped it gently around her shoulders, telling her in a low, warm voice that he didn't care about the mud, only about whether she was hurt. The stunned look on her face said everything. Years of being mocked for her simplicity and poverty, years of being underestimated, years of being treated as less, suddenly shattered under the kindness of a man who had survived storms of his own, raising his little daughter Lily alone after losing his wife. And as they sat together, Emily still shivering, yet slowly relaxing under the safety of Daniel's presence, he found himself hanging onto every word she said about growing up poor, working 2 jobs, and always choosing kindness even when life gave her very little in return. And in turn she found her heart tightening as he talked about his daughter's nightmares after her mother passed, the lonely dinners he tried to make cheerful, the way he would sit awake listening for Lily's soft cries through the door. And something between them began to form, not romance too quickly, but recognition, a quiet understanding born between 2 souls who had known struggle. And when Lily herself wandered into the cafe, a small curly-haired girl clutching her stuffed rabbit, her eyes widened with innocent surprise at Emily's muddy clothes. But instead of fear, she walked forward and slipped her tiny hand into Emily's muddy fingers, saying softly, "You look like you saved someone today," a sentence so pure that Emily's eyes filled instantly, and Daniel watched that moment like it was the first sunrise he had seen in years. The rest of the evening unfolded with gentle laughter, warm food, and the kind of conversation that made time bend. And by the time the lights dimmed and the cafe prepared to close, Daniel stood up, looked Emily directly in the eyes, and told her that she didn't need to apologize for how she arrived, because anyone who shows up covered in mud after rescuing someone is the kind of person he would choose 100 times over. And Emily, stunned once more, felt something settle inside her, something strong and hopeful and deeply healing. As Daniel offered to drive her home, Lily insisted on sitting in the back seat with Emily, and the little girl, sleepy, had soon rested on her arm, as if it had always belonged there. And in that quiet moment on the road under the dimming moonlight, Daniel realized that this messy, unexpected evening may have brought him the first peace he had known in almost a decade, while Emily realized that sometimes the worst, muddiest, most embarrassing beginning can lead to a beautiful, gentle ending. And as Daniel walked her to her doorstep, he simply said, "If this was fate, I'm grateful it didn't wait for me to be ready." And she smiled through tears, knowing deep inside that for the first time in her life, she hadn't been judged for what she lacked, but cherished for who she truly was. And that was the moment the story closed beautifully, leaving both hearts changed forever in a single, unforgettable night.